Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every day at this stage on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that bell and subscribe button. Also, audio versions of our show are available on Anchor, so if you prefer that, head over there. Also, if you want to contact us, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whichever is your preference for contacting us if you feel you wish to come on the show. Joining me today for the Chelsea fan reaction to the collapse of the ESL, much happier Alex Bourne. How are we, Alex?
I'm good. I'm a lot better than I was in the Monday mashup. I know it's a bit of crack and a bit of buzz on the Monday mashup. I was like for the whole show I was absolutely misery guts, and just that's how I felt at the time. Like, here we are, complete another 180. I'm back. I'm in my jersey, got the wall, and I'm happy. I'm so relieved. Like, I mean, I was watching Sky Sports News yesterday when the news broke that we were the first club to officially announce relief of the Super League. It just come up, Chelsea, want to, even the way it was said really got me going. It was like, Chelsea announced they want to leave Super League as soon as possible. I just sat there, like, I celebrated like Chelsea just won a cup. I sat there and I was going mad, shouting yes, and fucking run around the place. And it was nice. It was really nice. And it was such a nice moment because, like, for those 48 hours, whatever it was very kind of heartbreaking, because I was like, I've supported this team for the last 20 odd years. You can see over there, like, all my match tickets for all the games I've been to over in London and stuff. And it was very worrying that I was thinking, this could be it, but no, it's all worked out in the end. And look, we've made Florentino Perez and the rest of that shower look like a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, especially that period, especially Sunday. I mean, Sunday was kind of very weird, announcing in the middle of the United game, and it was kind of like there wasn't a whole lot of detail, and it kind of, there was kind of a little bit of excitement in me in terms of these fixtures and stuff like that and all. But then when we heard it was kind of a closed shop, a club for the boys, if you like, and there wasn't too much detail in terms of allocation of pyramid money to help out grassroots and all that. It started to leave a bad taste in the mouth, going, well, what are we actually competing for here? And the only reason we're football fans is, one, because we love our club, but two, the competitive nature and the payback that we get from following football.
Yeah, exactly. And that was kind of the point. I know I did a couple of podcasts with yourself on Monday. I did the Mourinho sack reaction with Graham, and I did the Monday mashup with yourself and a few of the lads. And like that was kind of my whole thing the whole way through. I was like, the fact that there's no competition for me was disgusting. I know people made the point, the Premier League breakaway, but at least teams could get into that, teams could get relegated. But look, I mean, I'm just glad that they saw sense. Like, when I saw the protests outside Stamford Bridge last night, I was so proud of the Chelsea fans. And like, when I saw Petr Cech go out into the middle of all the fans to let the bus through, and they were all saying, well, as soon as I heard Cech say, we're working on it, I was like, something's going on here. Are they? Surely not. But then when they got the news, it was just the ultimate relief.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, hats off to the Chelsea fans coming out in their thousands to protest about this. And look, this is a fan base that gets an awful lot of stick in the football world. But today and yesterday, we tip our hats to that fan base. Absolutely outstanding job. Yeah. And definitely started the ripple effect. I mean, we had heard rumours yesterday morning even that both teams themselves, yourselves and City, were considering the exit without a shadow of a doubt. I suppose, looking back on it, we didn't really believe it was going to happen anyway, did we? Like, it wasn't.
I did.
You were fully in on it. You were worked.
Yeah. I was worked. I was worked into a position here. No, I thought that it was like the fact that it was so far. You'd seen like we're going to start in August, and it was a case of the fact when I saw the teams officially writing to the European Club Association saying we're leaving. When I saw Florentino Perez been anointed the president, I was like, look, they're not going to care what we think. This is about making money. If they make the money, they don't mind what we think. But no, I mean. And the news came out last night that apparently it was Abramovich who made the decision to pull out. When he saw the fan backlash, apparently it was his decision. He said, look, we're not doing this, we're scrapping it. And I'm kind of, as you said there, the ripple effect, I'm quite happy that the fact that we pulled out seemed to create the rest of all the teams pulling out. Like, once I think, we were the first ones to take the stand and say, look, we're not doing this, we're out. That's when, we were very closely followed by all the Premier League teams saying, look, we're not doing this either.
Yeah, I mean, if this doesn't sit well with Roman, who would it sit well with? You know what I mean? Of all the people, so hats off to him as well.
Yeah.
Tell us this. I mean, they did a woeful job on the marketing and the communication. So whoever was involved in that should be fired and never involved in anything again.
I agree, and I think that Perez needs to get himself checked because clearly that man doesn't have a clue about football. I'm sure you saw his. I'm sure you saw his thing yesterday that he was doing on Spanish TV. Like, oh, we're going to make the game shorter in order to get like 16 to 24-year-olds interested. And look, I was actually, this point was made to me yesterday by my mother of all people, who's actually a diehard Chelsea fan as well. She said, if you look at that protest outside Stamford Bridge, I would say at least half of that crowd was 16 to 24-year-olds. Man doesn't have a clue about football, and the likes of himself, the likes of the Glazers, need to be run out of football as soon as possible.
Yeah. In terms of the European Super League, just play devil's advocate here. If it had been presented properly and it wasn't a closed group, there was a relegation system for it and a qualification system for it. And if there was a plan presented in terms of, the billions this was going to generate in terms of pyramid money going back into grassroots, and taking into account our kind of disdain in terms of some of the stuff that goes on in UEFA and FIFA and stuff like that, would you have been a little bit open to it?
I would have been a bit more open to it in the sense that had it been a relationship with the league, something like that. Like my big point that I kept saying the whole way through was the exclusivity of it all. Had it been a case of this is the European Super League where whoever finishes, like the old European Cup for example, whoever finishes first in their league gets to go in. Like say for example next season, I don't know, Everton have a great season under Ancelotti. Everton finished first next season. I know you as a Liverpool fan can't fathom it, but however, Everton finished top, and it's a case of they go in. And that would be amazing. Like, I mean, for something like that, for that, I'd be okay. But the fact of, say, everyone were to finish top and go, okay, so we go into the Super League. No, you see the teams that say, Chelsea finished 5th, Liverpool finished 7th, Tottenham finished 10th, Arsenal finished 11th. They go in, you don't. It's a bit, you might want to leave, win. That for me was the problem. Like, had it been an open system, had it been something to replace it and like give teams a better way of playing, less fixtures, that would have been okay. But the elitist exclusivity of the only qualification you need is a lot of money. No, that was to me was like, there's no way we'll ever get behind this.
Yeah, it was just a botch job, really, from start to finish, really, wasn't it?
It was so unethical, and I think Pep said it in his presser yesterday. Pep said, once you remove competition, it's not sport. Like once you remove that whole thing, and I know there was the case of 5 teams can go up or down. Pep was like, yeah, but that means 15 can't be affected. What are we playing for?
Yeah. So now that we look back, it was a very difficult 48 to 72 hours in terms of being a football fan, and especially and I suppose for all football fans, not only the 6 teams that were involved, but obviously anyone who follows any of the teams in the Premier League, there was a lot of things up in the air and a lot of things that could have collapsed. Looking back, you were very strong in your condemnation of it, and you were very strong in the point that you made that you'd potentially walk away from football. You've been a Chelsea fan all your life. Obviously, you have a bond there with your mum. Your mum's a Chelsea fan as well. You've shared countless fantastic moments, no doubt, on this journey. Would you have truly walked away?
Yeah.
You would.
I was saying it to a mate last night. A friend of mine put up a stat. He said, "Oh, the fans are saying this and that. You're still going to watch your teams." I was like, "No," and I think that's why I was so upset because, I'll be honest. I know I came on and I was quite angry on Monday when I was chatting, but at the base of it all, I was upset, man. I was extremely upset, and there was, I was kind of sitting there like, what the hell am I going to do? Because as much as it would have absolutely killed me, like I love the club. I mean, I said like 20 games. Like this is actually the jersey from 1991, the year I was born. It was a case of, although I've loved this team, that I could not follow them in this league. If Chelsea had signed up for a corporate soulless league that was all about money, I couldn't have supported the team in that, and it would have killed me. But no, I was done if this went ahead.
I suppose kind of a little bit dissimilar to ourselves at Liverpool. Insofar as, you have Roman there, who's the owner of Chelsea and invests the money, and it's kind of not like a like a business setup like FSG, if you like. It's slightly different. It's what I would call kind of natural money investment, if you like. I was making the point to people today that like I follow the club, the stadium, the fans, the players, the coaching, the tea lady, the visio, the guys outside on the stalls, the local pubs around the club,
yes,
all that kind of thing. That to me is the culture and the fabric. I was saying when I travel over, I first of all visit the Hillsborough Memorial I always lay a scarf there or a few flowers or something just in memory of the 96 and the sacrifice that they made. But I always get my picture with the Shankly trophy and all the stuff that came out about that. But that's what I follow, and that's where it stops. I don't follow the boardroom. I don't follow John Henry. I don't follow any of that. You know what I mean? So from that point of view, if you looked at it from that point of view, I mean, it might have looked different proceeded that maybe Roman would be the one who would be pushing it through and signing it. But you'd be walking away from your players and your coaches and all the stuff that came out about that where they were not consulted. They were kind of thrown under the bus. They were dropped into a meat grinder like every other club's coach and players. Could you have really walked away from that and really said, I'm done with the whole club? Or would you have just, like the way United at the moment are passionate about their club, but their hierarchy, they just don't acknowledge at all?
Yeah. Like, I mean, up until the 11th hour last night, up until that announcement was made, I wasn't watching Chelsea versus Brighton last night. Like, I was like, I've no interest. I'm not watching it. They've killed my interest. And I don't know if it was yourself I said it to, but I said it to somebody. It was in the sense that, well, what if this doesn't work out? What if Chelsea, it might have been yourself. They said, like, what if Chelsea get kicked down into the 5th tier, like, the Northern Premier Square Conference League in England and aren't the Super League? I says, look, if and when that happens, I will not watch Chelsea in the Super League. If we get kicked out, we're in the 5th tier or the 6th tier of English football, I will watch the club. I was saying, while Chelsea are playing something like that, I'm not in it. But look, that's why I was so upset, because I was like, for me, I was thinking this truly, if this goes ahead, this is the end, and this is like 20 years, and that's why I was so down. That's why I was so like, geez, like this is my whole world was basically shattered. But look, I mean, we came through, and like I'm quite proud of the way. I was proud of Petr Cech especially, and I gotta give him a special mention. You might see him up there above me in the white jersey there of the European Cup. I gotta give him a special mention for the way he went out into the middle of the fans, because that was an angry mob. Make no mistake about a protest, and that was a mob, and quite a justified mob in my opinion. And like, I mean, the balls on that man. Like, I don't know the way I said, the balls on that man to go into the middle of that crowd and say, look guys, we're working on it, please bear with us. And like, I think that none of the clubs are guilt-free with this. Any of the clubs that signed them are not guilt-free. But what I will say is, I think we have come off the best in this, in the sense that we were kind of the last ones to join. We were reluctant to join. And as soon as, it's coming out, Roman saw the fans, he was saying, no, not having this, look, let's go. So, like, for me, I know Roman gets a lot of flack. Personally, I think he's a fantastic owner. Like, what he's done for our club, I think is absolutely incredible. And it's been his money. And I know people say he's a bit trigger happy with the managers. I agree with that completely. But I mean, since he's come in, I think we've got more trophies than any other English club since he's come in.
Yeah, and his mistreatment in the UK has been a disgrace.
I agree. He's done so much for charity, and when the pandemic started last year, he was the one football club that I think we were the first club last year to announce that we weren't going to furlough a single member of staff, and he opened up the hotels to the NHS. He had, charities in, testing centres at Stamford Bridge, so he done more, I think, than most of the billionaires that live in England. The amount that man has done for the community there, and what he did last year in the pandemic, I think is incrediable. And I agree, it's disgraceful the way he's been treated.
Yeah, you could nearly argue in the pandemic that he created employment rather than cutting it. Exactly, you know what I mean? It's a madness, like,
It is, and like, I mean, it was it's so good to see, because, like, I mean, you even saw, like, for example, Arsenal, furlough staff, and even last year, if you look at Arsenal with the Gunnersaurus, I know we laugh like, oh, they sacked their mascot. They sacked their mascot when they were in the middle of trying to secure a £350 million deal with this, and it's like, for God's sake, they signed a Willian on a $200,000 a week contract. But look, this isn't the Arsenal show. This is about Chelsea, and I think that you pointed out earlier quite well, for the amount of stick that we get, Chelsea fans, to know you're plastic fans, you don't care about football, you're this and you're that. I think last night Chelsea fans showed their absolute true colours.
Yeah, I was saying on an earlier show, it was interesting. Like, it was the first time you've really seen, sort of, if you want globally, that football fans came together to unite for a common cause.
Yes.
But what I did say was, it's only going to last 24 hours. It's back to business then as usual. You know what I mean?
Of course.
We seen all the celebrations last night on the toppling, the collapse of the House of Cards, if you like, and then today we were straight into the other 14 teams going, right, so how are we going to punish these 6? You know what I mean? Like, so.
Case in point, I got it was a nice one. We were all sticking together, all fighting for the same thing. But as soon as the Chelsea game ended last night, The text came in, drama, Brighton, you're bleeding useless.
Yeah, it was like William Wallace and Braveheart running down the hill, and once the battle was won, it was like, that's grand. I'm off to the pub. See you later.
But the key thing I said last night, because I was talking to a couple of Chelsea fans who were quite unhappy with the draw, and I said I couldn't care less about the draw last night. They're like, "What do you mean it was a bad performance?" I said, "Look, it was a bad performance, but my main thought in that last night with the draw, because I know we haven't talked about the game, it was almost like a secondary thing. It was kind of like, oh, and there's a game tonight, by the way." My exact response to the fans, I don't care, because win, lose, or draw, we have our club back.
Yeah, it was a madness when you think about what's unfolded over the last day or so.
Yeah.
The Brighton game and the Leeds game now look as if they were huge.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was sitting there
because we've a top four race on again now.
Because when we drew 0-0, I was like, look, obviously I'm disappointed when we don't win, but
yeah.
I'm just glad it meant something. And I have to say, for the players, because I know Chelsea were poor last night in the game, but those players' heads for the last 48 hours have to have been all over the place.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I cut them a complete break last night if they didn't play well.
So when you think about it, we've gone from automatic qualification to, what do you mean we need to qualify? It was an absolute madness.
And can I just say now, I don't want to speak for all football fans, but it's almost kind of poetic in a way that, the first team that has pulled out of the Super League and kind of, the first set of fans who, really kind of led the whole thing of, really pushed it over the line. And as you said to them, the House of Cards will be facing Real Madrid next week, who are owned by one Florentino Perez.
Yeah. Well, that's assuming Real Madrid are still in the competition, because apparently they haven't pulled out yet. So who knows?
And I love the fact that this may be spoiler here. The three remaining teams are Barcelona, Juve, and Real Madrid. You have gone from a European Super League that was going to take over football to you can't even make up a Champions League group.
Can you imagine if they did a ruling and they threw Real Madrid out and replaced it with Liverpool?
Jesus, I'd be like, well, I you know what it would be? It would be exactly what I said to you. Like, you can't get rid of Liverpool in Europe, and I would say case and bloody point.
Absolutely. If you refer back to such and such an episode, you will see we quoted this.
Yeah, like it'll come back to me. You can't get rid of Liverpool in Europe, even when they're out, they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Always justice. Talk to me. How do we break down things in terms of sanctions? I mean, you've got 14 clubs there in the Premier League now, believing that there should be some sort of a sanction. But how do you do that without affecting the fans, who's such a big play?
Yeah, I mean,
the players, the coaches, the canteen staff, all the people that like the bones of a club that like had no play in this at all, and they're the people who are going to get hurt.
Yeah, like it is a tricky one. Like I understand the need for sanctions and that, but I mean, I'd say the most fair sanction would be this is all about money. So hit them where it hurts. Like, and to be honest, if there was a way where they could take action, not against so much the clubs, if there was a way to take action directly against the owners and their group, like if there was a way to take action against FSG, if there was a way to take action against the Blazers, if there was a way to take action against Kroenke, that's the thing as well. Like, I mean, I know I say I don't feel we're as culpable. Like everybody's guilty with this with the clubs, but I think that those three, FSG, Kroenke, and Glazers, I think they were the real kind of driving force behind us. I think Daniel Levy got into it because Spurs are a super club, great, but obviously, I'm trying to be unbiased, but I think that Sheikh Mansour and Abramovich are the least have the least dirty hands here, if that makes sense. They were kind of last in and kind of joined up because they felt like they should join up. Now, I'm not saying they're innocent, but I don't think they're as culpable as some other people.
Well, they'd be less dependent on the money chase.
Yeah, I mean, I think that did we mention the other night there was a top 10 of the clubs in this or whatever, and it showed like all the debt the other teams were in, and I think Tottenham were hundreds of millions of debts. But I mean, you built a new stadium. What do you expect? Yeah. The only team that weren't in debt were Chelsea. Like we were the only ones that didn't need the money.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine Man City aren't in too much debt either. In reality,
I don't think they understand what the word means.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was it. Look, that was the thing that for me, and I got to give a shout out to Man City. Like, I mean, another club where the fans are like, "Oh, you're a money club and you're this and you're that." No, they were ones as well. You saw their backlash as well in the way they dealt with it. So, and that's what I quite liked. You talked about the fans coming together. There was the image outside Stamford Bridge last night of the first kind of two fans that arrived holding up the signs. One was in a Chelsea shirt, one was in a City shirt. So that was good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. There was definitely a lot of solidarity without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, you even seen it on the socials, you seen it on the YouTube channels. Everyone came
Yeah.
together for a common cause. The one thing about the sanctions, I mean, I said it on previous shows. I don't know how you find a billionaire unless you find him a billion.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, a 10 million euro fine for them was what, like a 20 quid fine for us.
Yeah, this is like you drop a fiver in a pub and you lose it kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Well, unless they bring in some kind of ruling where they have to sell their clubs or something like that, they have to leave. Like that would be, to be honest, I've just thought of that on the spot. Maybe that's the only fair way. They bring in a rule where it's like you have to sell your club by X date to a different consortium.
Yeah. Yeah, I did make the point today in terms of FSG. I mean, you seen John Henry came out with his apology video, which was kind of
I almost couldn't tell he was reading it off a teleprompter.
yeah, absolutely. But it was kind of like, I mean, he's made a number of boo-boos along the way now and in terms
Yeah,
of silly, stupid stuff.
and he was one of the, like, I mean, I know I mentioned them already, but like himself, Kroenke, Glazers, and Perez, like, I know there was 12 clubs, so we all know that these were the driving force behind this. I know there's a lot of talk about the chief executive from Juventus, but I think these four were kind of the key ones, like, especially like Kroenke. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
there was the story that broke last night, and they didn't say which clubs, but I would imagine that one of these owners was at a Premier League game and turned to the person beside them and said, "Which team are we?"
Yeah, what colors are we playing in? What colors are
Exactly.
jersey? Yeah, which is
Whereas, like, I know, like, you say the likes of that, but you see, like, Roman Abramovich, I know he can't get into the country, but he was at every single Chelsea game. He
yeah,
was always there cheering for them. And when we won the Champions League, he lifted the trophy too. He
yeah,
went up because it meant everything to him as well. And,
yeah,
like, that's what I mean. I know he's a money guy, and I don't know how much he was associated with this, but I think he does have the club's best intention at heart. Like, when you
yeah,
saw how quickly you saw the fans said, "Look, we're not doing this." And I know
yeah,
Roman gets a lot of stack,
yeah,
big boss, the big oil barn and stuff like that. But I think he's been a great owner for us for the last
yeah.
20 years now. And he's transformed our club and he's done so much for the community. So I think the likes of him find him in some way, but I think he should be allowed to continue to look after his club because he's done so much. But the likes of the others, they're an absolute debt to the sport, I think.
I did I did make the point about FSG the other night, and I made it again today on the show that, like,
Mm.
although they've made some mistakes that are big, what I would call ingrained cultural mistakes, where they showed a lack of understanding of the city and the culture and what football means to Liverpool as a city and as a club. With absolute stupid stuff like trying to trademark the name and LA, and trying to charge the spine cop for the banners on the cop and all kinds of stupid.
Yes, yes.
I mean, trying to raise ticket prices and stupid stuff. But I also preface that by saying they did stand on the steps of a court not so long ago and saved Liverpool as a club as well, that we were going under. There's no doubt about it with Gillette and Hicks. Those guys would have been happy to absolutely bury us into the ground.
Yes.
And I would also say, I know they sold players to buy players, but just because you sell a player doesn't necessarily mean that all that money ends up in the hands of the manager to spend.
Mm.
And I think that fundamentally the selling of Coutinho and handing that money to Klopp to buy Virgil van Dijk and Alisson Becker was fundamental in the success that the club has enjoyed over the last 3 years without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
And I think that part of it has to be commended. The question I would ask you, do you think, obviously, out of FSG, Kroenke, and the Glazers, do they have to go, or is there a comeback on this? Can they come back?
Well, I mean, I think again, it all depends on the fans. Like, I mean, I personally can't speak for Liverpool fans. I'm a Chelsea fan. I can personally speak and say, look, I'm happy with Roman. I want to stay on as our owner because he's done so much for the club. In terms of the other clubs, it will be up to their fans. I know that the United fans want shot at the Glazers first chance they get. I know I saw, and even as a Chelsea fan, shout out to the United fans. I am absolutely delighted for your club that absolute leech Ed Woodward is going to be leaving as soon as possible, because he's another one who's been an absolute debt to the sport. And as soon as we see the back of him, the better. And again, it's a case of it goes back to the Super League. What do the fans want? Like, I know that the Glazers, they need to go, as far as I'm concerned. They've done nothing for that club. That's all been a money making scheme for them. They turned them into, get these big deals, and like, it's kind of, what do they put into the club? Kroenke, I mean, you do like Emery coming out last summer 2019, saying we don't have money to spend on players. You're Arsenal. You're one of the biggest clubs in England, and your owners are saying, what is it he said? I think his line was, we've 20 million to spend on players. That won't buy you a centre half these days. So, I mean, yes, Liverpool have. Look, they got a lot of money for Coutinho. They did invest that back into the team, but at the same time, they came in and they've done a lot for the team. Is it a case of that, this was all, we wanted to do this and build a team? I know they've made a lot of money. I think they made the club 7 times worth what it was before. But I think as well as that, you have to look at Klopp for the job that he did. Like, he came in and he got a lot of these players who are already there playing out of their skin. He made a couple of good buys. He got Salah and Mane, I think, for a combined 60 million, which, is pennies for players like that these days. So, look, I think that it's a case of, have they come in and invested all of their own money and spent all that money on players themselves? Or is it a case of, because Roman's come in and, like, even last summer, he spent 200 million on players out of his own money. So I think you have to look at them and say, have you done this to improve the club, or have you done it to line your pockets? And it's a case of, for me looking in, I don't know the ins and outs. I know they saved Liverpool, but I think they have slightly done it to line their pockets. I think Liverpool's success was down to wise investment of money that they already made from selling players. And the fact that Klopp is just, he's unbelievable. He's a fantastic manager, and he's able to get 110% out of any player.
Yeah, I just, sometimes I like to give people the benefit of the doubt a bit. It would be easy to sell Coutinho and just keep the money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think they did recognise, and I think on those points, they do have to be commended for what they did. And even bringing Jurgen Klopp in.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, he's so at the core of our success in terms of the beliefs. He gets us. His background is Dortmund. He got it there. We're not dissimilar to Dortmund in the way we think about football, culturally, the fan base, and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's, again, I don't know. Sometimes you think, well, if these people go and they sell off the club, what who are they going to sell it off to, first of all, when the value of them is like this? I heard the Glazers coming out today talking about, valuing the club at 4 or 5 billion, which really means that they're going to turn around to the fans and say, well, look, we put it up for sale, but no one wanted to buy it. Well, of course, no one wanted to buy it because you've inflated the price.
Exactly.
And that might justify them staying. I also heard today Edwin van der Sar might be replacing Ed Woodward.
Now, I think if I were a United fan, I'd be quite happy about that. He's a football man. He completely understands. And you only need to look at ourselves getting Petr Cech in as one of our sporting directors, and the difference that made, as far as I'm concerned. Even with getting transfers in last summer, the club was running a lot better with Petr Cech, somebody who's played for the club and understands the club, in charge of decisions like that. I think, is the Liverpool or something like that? Do they have a football man in the boardroom as well, similar to Cech?
Well, they have. It's mainly Mike Edwards, who's an absolute. When I heard that he might be resigning last night, and him and Billy Hogan, the CEO. When I heard they were resigning, I was really upset, you know what I mean? Because Mike Edwards is an absolute baller when it comes to players and deals and stuff like that. And all, he's just, but they do have a huge analytics department there, and scouting, is second to none when you think about it. And Edwards, with the way he puts deals together, he just pulls other clubs' trousers down and walks off with the jewels, basically. You know what I mean? Without a shadow of a doubt.
But I think they need somebody in the boardroom like that, at that kind of executive level, that understands the club. Like, a Cech for us, and if Van der Sar becomes, say, for example, for you, just thinking of a name, say like a Xabi Alonso in that Liverpool boardroom, someone who knows the club and understands it. I think that's what we need, because these owners that come in, they don't understand. Like, Liverpool, the history, the years gone by with Shankly, with Paisley, with everything, with the Hazel disaster, with Hillsborough, like all of the, history, good and unfortunate, that's happened through your club, and it's all ingrained. That's what the people remember. Like, I even saw Bill Shankly's grandson yesterday saying, if Liverpool go ahead with this, we want the statue removed. So these are people who know what the club is about, and you can't just come in and be like, oh, they're going to think differently. No, this is what the club is about. And I think any owner has to understand that before we even look at what they've done.
Yeah, I think as football fans, we'd probably be a little naive if we were to think that the people sitting in the boardroom didn't understand the magnitude of the club and what it means to the people. It's kind of different in our way because we've had a bit of success over the last few years. So they've lived through those Madrid nights. They've lived through those Barcelona nights at Anfield. They've been there, they've seen us lift the league when we couldn't celebrate after 30 years. So they must have been fully aware of what it meant to us. And to turn around and be naively thinking that, like, how did you even think you were going to get the support of the fans on a decision like this? So were you absolutely so ill-advised, or were you just totally arrogant and tried to steamroll?
I think it could be the second one. I think it could be, these money men, these billionaires, and especially, look, I'm going to just be honest, like, they own clubs, they own teams in different sports over in the United States. I've been to sports I won't say the United States, I've been to sports in Canada. I went to a couple of baseball games when I was in Canada before, okay? And the difference in the fans, like the fans will sit there sitting on their hands, twiddling their thumbs. And as soon as something comes up on the screen to chant, they will start chanting along with the screen. So it's not the same. And that's why I saw a great point there. That's why the Americans love the game of football, because it's not like any of the sports. It's so sterilized, people are sitting there and it's very quiet. Like I can't vouch for football over there because I've not been to a football game, but when you go to a Premier League game, when you go to a Champions League game, there is nothing like it in terms of sport. So that's the thing. Like, I mean, they're kind of saying, oh, we can, maybe they're saying we could take this and we can change to what we have in the States. You can't, because it's a different fan base. It's a completely different mentality. And even around Europe, I've seen all the kind of papers around Europe today, all the papers in like, Italy, all the papers in Spain, they all had pictures of the Chelsea fans outside Stamford Bridge last night saying, like, this is incredible. So, I mean, I think the most passionate fans in the world you're going to find are at these clubs in England. And, I'm going to say it again, the Premier League, best league in the world for me. There's absolutely nothing like it. And the fact that they thought you could take all that and just say, oh, like, this isn't important, we're going to change it. Don't worry, you're going to see your teams play this and this. No, and like, oh, your team's going to play the big teams every week, but we look forward to that. We earn the right to play the big teams. Like, we're playing Real Madrid next week. We've earned that right because we finished in the top 4 last season. We played our way through this competition. We didn't know we were going to get Madrid until the draw was made. If we were guaranteed, we'd be like, oh, well, this is on this day. But that's why you enjoy it. How excited were you for the Champions League draw? You sit there, you're an hour before waiting, go, geez, who are we going to get? Let's do it. And everybody's talking about it. That's what we've been missing.
Yeah, true. It was a real play to suck the excitement out of the game and just flood it with cash. Well, listen, as always, it's been a pleasure. Great to have you on. Great to have the other Alex back.
It's great to be back.
Smiley Alex. Good to see the jersey, the posters, the tickets all in the background again.
Absolutely, man. I haven't brought once again, we will document this as we go on each show. I have not had the heart to take that my Frank Lampard poster yet. Maybe someday, but I haven't had the heart yet.
He ain't coming down yet. He done too much for the club. He ain't coming down yet.
Exactly.
Also, tell people about Le Chats.
Le Chats, yes. I'm going to be in a much better mood for Le Chats. So I imagine this is going to be going up on a Wednesday night. So tomorrow, Thursday at 7 p.m, my show on Facebook for Le Chats, where I talk to actors, comedians, musicians, and everything above and between and below. People involved in the entertainment industry who've been affected by the pandemic. I get their views, how the work has been affected, what they're doing with themselves, and how we're getting on. So anybody interested in the entertainment industry, please check it out. I can't promise as much football talk. We don't run the same type of show that you do. You guys do football a lot better than we do. But if you guys are interested in entertainment, check it out. Be happy to have you. And I promise I'll still be as upbeat. It was going to be, I was sitting thinking all week, how am I going to do the show on Thursday when my heart's broken? But I'm ready. Let's go. I'm rejuvenated, and I appreciate you having me on to vent and so much this week.
Brilliant. As always, head over to YouTube, Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to Facebook where Alex is, Le Chats. Check it out. Always a stellar show. Also on Anchor for the audio versions of the show. This has been your Chelsea fan reaction to the collapse of the European Super League. RIP. Alex, good talking to you. We will chat to you again.
For sure, man. And if I could just throw in at the end of that Super League for yourself, Super League, RIP, and good riddance.
Excellent. Take it easy.